And here I am in my late 50s, I want to keep speeding up. I mean, the day will come when I have to slow down, but I want to keep speeding up. The opportunities are so massive. The doors open before us so massive. The calling of my life is so intense. I want to keep moving faster and do more for the Lord, not to win his favor, but just while we have breath. Go for it. Harvest is ripe. And it was the first time she ever heard me talk, and I wasn't super excited about the future. And I remember talking to her one night, and I said, you know, if I could extend my life 5 years by getting rid of all the stuff I like to eat and just eating healthy stuff, I mean, what's it worth it for 5 years? I mean, to be miserable for all your life, to live 5 years longer? And she was shocked to hear me say that. So she was really crying out to God on my behalf. My cholesterol, 230, but the bad was real high and the good was real low. So I'm thinking, okay, my arteries must be getting clogged. I've got high blood pressure, got these headaches constantly. I didn't stop pushing, but when I would write a book, some books I've written in 3 weeks' time. I once wrote a book over 300 pages in 3 weeks, but I just pushed through the tiredness. I'd just push and write and work until I was ready to drop. And for years, for over 15 years, I had to use a breathing machine because of sleep apnea. And traveling around the world with a breathing machine is not always easy. I'd be in some little hotel, some tiny hotel in India, trying to find an outlet to plug in the breathing machine. And then, well, the cord's not long enough, so I got to try to move the bed or sleep backwards on the bed to, you know, we're flying overseas and with a battery pack with a breathing machine and, you know, put the breathing machine on and put the blanket over my head. It's like, well, that was just life. And I'd gone to a doctor and they said, there's nothing we can do. It's nothing surgical. There's no remedy for this. You just need a breathing machine. If you asked me how I was doing, I'd say, great. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I get, you know, catch colds here and there. But otherwise, I didn't have any life-threatening illness. And it was all these symptoms that I just thought that's normal. That's life. I got to do something about the high blood pressure. But she was crying out to God on her end. And I was crying out because I just thought, you know, all the clothes I have, you know, and any of you who've battled with being overweight, you got your thin clothes and your medium clothes and your fat clothes. And so I had, the fat clothes were starting to get tight. And I thought, I am not getting any clothes bigger than this. And then I said to myself, because I'm always looking at the final result, the trajectory, where is this going? I started thinking, okay, if you never dreamed you'd weigh 275 pounds. Who's to say you won't hit 300? Who's to say you won't hit 350? And what if you spend the last years of your life sick and debilitated because of your diet? But what was I going to do? Nancy and I talked about me eating the way she ate, but we knew it was not possible. Number one, I had to give up everything I liked. Number two, I had to eat everything I would never even taste or go near. And number three, it was impossible to sustain it on the road. So it wasn't even an option. Finally, August 23rd of 2014, so 3 years and a few days ago, I sat down with her and I said, my plan is not working. Because I always said I have a plan, you know, cut back on peanut M&Ms or all, you know, a little less pizza or whatever. And Trent, one time, introduced me to these healthy protein bars. They were called Oh Yeah. And they were chocolate or caramel, and they were really healthy. They had a lot of protein. So his goal was to get me to have those and to give up other chocolate. So I came home with these and I showed them to Nancy. I said, these are really good. She goes, they're not healthy. I said, no, look at the protein. She said, it's just dead stuff. It's not healthy. You don't need that. I said, no, but Trent's idea is I'll eat this and I'll give up the other chocolate. She said, no, you won't. You'll add this in, which is what I did. So I always had a plan, but it wasn't working. So I sat down with Nancy. I said, my plan is not working, all right? And she said, just eat what I give you to eat starting tomorrow. And for the first time in my life, I had the resolve and said, yes. Within 8 months of that day, within 8 months, I went from 275 pounds to 180 pounds. Okay, not dieting, just getting rid of the bad and eating only good. I have not had a headache in 3 years, not a single headache. I used to get colds all the time. My immune system is super strong. My energy level, off the charts. Lower back pain completely disappeared. High blood pressure, 149 over 103 at its highest, now averages about 100 over 65. Cholesterol went from 230 to 123. And the good is high and the bad is low. And to my surprise, I don't need a breathing machine anymore. And when I went and talked to a sleep doctor about it, he explained that I lost enough weight that it just, in the back of the mouth, the back of the tongue, roof of the mouth, it just opened things up a drop. And that was enough to not need a breathing machine anymore. So it has been absolutely life transforming. And men will pick me up from the airport, you know, pastors know me over the years, and first thing they want to talk to me about lifestyle transformation, and they say, so the first question always, so how often do you cheat? And I say to them, how often do you cheat on your wife? So that's the deal. If it's wrong, you don't do it. And I want to give you a few keys that I found very helpful. But first, just real quick, the first 3 days were miserable because of all the addictions that I had, all the food addictions that I had. First 3 days, miserable. And as it was happening, I said, okay, this is miserable, but this is a good sign. Poison is leaving my body. And then I remember on the second day, I had a cold. I was doing a live radio show. You know, I do live radio 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I was doing my radio show. I was feeling miserable. But I said to myself, hey, you're 2 days in. You got to finish this. You got to keep going. You got no choice but to keep going. And on the third day, I cried out to God in prayer at night. I paced the floor in our house, and I cried out. I said, Jesus, when you saved me, you were so real to me. I didn't care about drugs. I didn't care about all the stuff I was addicted to. I didn't care about. You were so real to me. You were so beautiful to me. You were my all in all. So in one night's time, when God's love was made real to me, December 17th of 71, remember I was shooting heroin and other drugs. I said, I'll never put a needle in my arm again. And I was free from that night on. And I said, Lord, if you were that real to me, then you can be real now. I said, Lord, surely the power of your Spirit is greater than the power of peanut M&Ms. I cried out to God, and I had the breakthrough that night. That was the first step. The next step was changing my mind. Some people, the addictions, it takes a week to get rid of, some less, but you'd be amazed how much junk there is. And one way you find out if you're addicted is just don't have something for a month. You say, I'm not addicted to it. Okay, show me. Don't have it for a month. And you start getting shakes, you start craving things, you start getting headaches, you start feeling weak. Whenever I would fast, I'd go through all that, and I thought that was part of fasting. It really wasn't. It was part of all the junk that was in my body. You know, if you're a heavy coffee drinker and you went into a fast, you'd suffer the consequences. If you got rid of coffee for 6 months before the fast, you wouldn't have those consequences. So I started to think about my relationship to food. And every day, Nancy would send me a testimony of someone whose life was transformed just following Joel Fuhrman's food guidelines, and a picture, a before and after picture, just to encourage me. And encouraging quotes. Just the first couple of weeks, every day she'd send me something, because she knew what a battle this was. It had been for her, and she knew what it was for me. So I began to think about food and why it was so important in my life, and why I so dreaded giving up certain things. And I began to realize everybody eats for different reasons. I mean, we all eat, right, because we need to eat. But everybody has bad eating habits for different reasons. Some people eat because of depression or fear or for comfort, you know, or whatever the reason is. Those weren't my issues. Nancy said she ate because she was a glutton. She just liked food, loved food, and ate all the time. For me, I realized food was my reward. It was the built-in reward to my life. Okay, today started speaking at 9. Looks like we'll end around 9, all right? I mean, we had a banquet here, okay? But 9 to 9, what do you do afterwards? Well, you reward yourself. I deserve a reward. Well, I'm not going to go sin. I'm not going to do something carnal or fleshly, get drunk or watch pornography or something, but I can eat. I can eat. I travel around the world, right? At this airport, I know I can get this special food. And at the airport, of course, you can eat what you want because you're traveling, right? On this flight, if I'm upgraded to business class, I get these special pretzel rolls that I really like. And I started to think every single area of my life had a built-in food reward. When I get to very common, you get to a hotel in America when you're checking in. If you check in at the right time, they've got freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. That was from the Lord. That was a gift from God. And I'd grab a couple there and grab a couple others for my room. I mean, in fact, to not have it would be like sin because it was a gift from God. So I remember I was thinking, why go on vacation if you can't eat whatever you want to eat? Why take my grandkids to a fun family movie if I can't have chocolate and popcorn? And I began to think, the reason I take the grandkids to a fun family movie is to have fun with them, not to eat the food. The reason I get on the plane is not for the food or go to the airport, is for the food, or go to the hotels for the food. It's to get where I'm going and to minister. So I had to change my mind about food. I had to renew my mind in terms of the purpose of food, food being the fuel for life. Food being the fuel so you can live healthy, strong lives and glorify God. When Paul wrote to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 6 and talked about glorifying God in their bodies, he was talking primarily about sexual immorality. Be holy, glorify God in your body. But you have to ask yourself, if you're feeding yourself unhealthy food, if you're a bad steward, if you're undisciplined, if you're putting stuff in you that long term is going to cut your life short, cut your ministry short, deprive your family and friends and people you're supposed to bless of years of your life, are you glorifying God in your body as you're doing that? Or think of this. What's one way that Paul describes the false teachers? Their God is their stomach. Their God is their stomach. And when the Bible talks about gluttony, it's always in a negative context, right? Gluttons, and drunkards, and lazy. It's never a good word. And then what's one of the fruits of the Spirit? Self-control. Now, it's very easy to see if food is a stronghold in your life. There was a friend of ours who was a type 2 diabetic, active in ministry. And many years ago, Nancy said to him, if you went to a totally vegan diet, you could 100% reverse the diabetes. He said, I know, but I hate veggies. That's a stronghold. I've talked to people and said, you could have more energy, you could be healthier, you could live longer, your mind would be sharper, your life would be blessed in so many ways if you just got rid of that. And they said, yeah, I know, but I like that. As believers in Jesus and servants of the Lord, do we have the liberty to do that? I mean, do we do that in any other area of our lives? I know it's wrong, I know it's destructive, but I'm going to do it because I want to. That shows, again, what a stronghold food is. So I had to renew my mind. I had to deal with these things. And then, about 2.5 weeks in, I had my crisis moment. I hit a wall. You see, when I used to cut out sweets, okay, I'm not going to have any chocolate for a month, or I'm not going to have any pizza, or I'm not going to have this, or I'm not going to have that. Life just wasn't fun. And I felt deprived all the time. And it was hard because I'm pushing hard. I love the work of the Lord. I'm thriving. Talk to any of these guys that have been with me. I love the work of the Lord. I love serving God. I'm excited. And I can't wait to write the next book or do the next debate or travel to the next place. I'm thrilled to do the work of God. But it's hard. You push hard. It's discipline. And when you just added in this one little extra thing, if you can't eat this, you can't. I felt deprived all the time, and I thought, I can't take that. That's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. So now I'm living like this. I'm not having this, all this stuff. I'm not eating anymore. No sugar, no flour. So I don't eat any dairy. I don't eat any flour. I don't eat any sugar. I don't use salt on anything. And trust me, what I eat tastes absolutely delicious to me. And I get to eat a ton more food than probably anybody in this room because I only eat healthy food. My dinner salad, I take a 4-gallon bowl. It's about 3 pounds of salad stuff and all kinds of greens and beans and all this, and it takes me almost 45 minutes to eat it. So if we go out with the family, kids and grandkids or something like that, to a salad bar place, so I'm the first one to get my meal because they're ordering theirs and they're waiting for it, right? So I'm eating while they're still ordering, and then they finish their meal, and then they get dessert, and they've had all this, probably had like 3,000 calories of junk, okay? And I'm still eating, and maybe I had 300, 400 calories, and I'm not full. I could go right from there straight into a workout and be perfectly fine. But in those early days, I'm struggling through, okay, I'm renewing my mind, I'm free from the addictions, and I'm not feeling too deprived. I'm okay. And I'm doing this for about 2.5 weeks. I come home from radio one day. It's a Tuesday. I finish radio at 4, get home around 4:30. I want to take a nap, get a little rest, and then I teach a night class at my school, 7 to 9 in the evening with our students. And I wake up, and it's a little bit past 6, and I am suddenly craving something sweet. I mean, I really want something sweet. So I remember, I've read a little bit. Nancy knows all the nutritional stuff, but I've read a little. And I realize, fruit craving, that's good. I'm craving something sweet. God's given us a sweet tooth, but for fruits, because they're healthy. The sugars in fruits, that's healthy. So I thought, okay, I just need some fruit, and I'll be satisfied. But somehow we had no fruit in the house. I'm looking at the clock, and I realize I don't have time to go to the store, go to the grocery store, go to produce, I don't have time for that. So I race out of the house, and I'm thinking, okay, I was in a convenience store, these little stores by a gas station the other day, and I happened to see in one cut up watermelon, pieces of watermelon cut up. I'd never seen that convenience store, and who goes to one of those little stores to get cut up watermelon? I'm getting peanuts there, I'm getting, chocolate ice cream or whatever else you get there, right? So I run into the store, they don't have any watermelon. No fruits at all. And I'm, at this point, feeling this desperate need for something sweet. It's the only time in 3 years I got hit with this. So I thought, okay, Nancy tells me not to drink fruit juices because they have lots of sugars in them. Maybe I can find like some organic, some natural one. And I found this one fruit juice, and I'm looking at the ingredients, and it looks pretty good. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get this. And whatever it was, I drank half of it before the class, and I had a complete meltdown. There's a whole chapter in the book called I Can't, where I tell this story. So I'm sitting in the car about 3 minutes before my class is going to start. I'm sitting in the car, and I start crying. And literally, tears coming down my cheeks. And I said, God, I can't do this. Are you going to live the rest of your life and never have a piece of chocolate? You're going to live the rest of your life and never have a slice of pizza? You're going to live the rest of your life like this? And I have a little grilled meat like once a week or something, but that wasn't the big issue to me. I mean, I can have it. Sometimes I forget to even have it. You know what I'm saying? It was this other stuff. And it's like, I can't. There's no possible way I can live the rest of my life like struggling, trying to find fruit somewhere. So I had a complete meltdown. And I'm literally crying in the car with tears coming down my cheeks. I can't. At the same time, I don't know if you've ever experienced, I was watching me from the outside. I was watching and laughing at the spectacle of this little baby crying because of food. So I'm literally watching myself laughing. I mean, outside the body, watching myself laughing as I'm crying like a baby, completely absorbed in this. And what I knew on the inside was this. This is just what I need because I'm coming to the end of my strength. God's strength, God's grace is made perfect in our weakness. His grace is sufficient. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. And I've had that happen several times where I completely hit bottom somehow. And I knew I can't do it. And that's when the grace arose. And that was it. Every so often, every few months, I might feel the tiniest drop deprived, tiniest drop. But trust me, I've been in some of the fanciest restaurants in the world and just said salad would be great. and watch people get, $50 steaks next to me. It's like, I did that. I did that. It didn't work for me. I can be in an airport and I'm walking all over the airport trying to find a place to get an apple. And I'm looking, all these people eating all these things. I say, hey, maybe it works for you. Didn't work for me. And what I found to be a real key, aside from being honest with God and saying, hey, I've got a problem here. Many people do. Most Americans do. Some nations, there's better diets and more discipline. But as I've walked around the malls and places here, it hasn't struck me as overwhelmingly healthy food. But certainly in America, we're in much worse shape. It's healthy to start and say, God, I got a problem. I have a problem with food. I have an addiction. It's a stronghold. Again, how do you know it's a stronghold? Because you'd live longer, you'd live a more vibrant life, you'd have more energy for the Lord, for family, but you're not willing to make the change. That's how you know it's a stronghold. Very simple. You know you're not being a good steward over your body, but you're not even willing to try to make a change because food's too important. Or I can't imagine living without this. That means we're bound. No condemnation. That's why Jesus died, to set us free from many different things, including food addictions. Good place to start. But once God gives you grace to make the change, and this is super crucial, important. Once God gives you grace to make the change, don't play games with it. So I'm seeing my doctor for a physical exam a few months into this, and when he saw how much weight I had lost so quickly, he wanted to look at it very carefully. He said, we're going to have to do all these blood tests, and Nancy just smiled at me because she knew what was coming. She knew the effects of healthy eating. And of course, he was thrilled when he saw the results and the health and the vitality and everything. And he's a believer, and he just knew me a little, but he knew me enough and he said, you are blessed with the gift of being all in. And I realized, that's my lifestyle. And when I was in sin doing drugs, I was a total heavy drug user. Then when I got saved, a year after I was saved, I was 6-7 hours alone with the Lord every day and just different things. When I was in college, wanted to learn languages. I learned 6 languages at the same time. I didn't learn them that well because it was 6 at the same time, but that's just all in. And I realized, that's the way I'm wired. But when it comes to food issues, that's what we recommend for everyone. In other words, if you say, I'll get rid of this, but not this, guaranteed you're not going to make it. If you say, well, I'm just, this one thing's too precious to me, you're not going to make it. And you're not going to make it to your goal. You're not going to make it to the full realization. And see, the reason dieting is such a mess is because you cut back on the bad stuff, but you still have all the addictions. You cut back on it instead of cutting it out entirely. You cut back on it, and you're always tempted every day. See, I've been to Italy 25 times, and Italian food was always my favorite. And you get Italian food in Italy, it's very close to heaven. Not for the health part, but it's amazing. And you'll eat with people, and you sit there at the table, like, this is unbelievable. This is incredible. I mean, we're all just sitting there flipping out. You can't believe it, how good it is. And I've been there now 3 times, I think 3 times, since my lifestyle changed. And the first time I was a little nervous. Not that I was going to eat the wrong thing, but how was I going to feel? It was fine. It was perfectly fine because I'm enjoying the benefits. And everybody wants to be like me. It's like, how are you doing this? Or, boy, one of my friends in Italy's known me since 87. He said, Mike, we're all getting older now. We're in our 60s. He said, you're the only one I know that's getting younger as you're getting older. So the key thing is this. If you don't open the door to temptation, if you don't play games with it, it's not an issue anymore. In other words, for me, because there are no exceptions ever for any reason, it's easy. Every day I'm thinking, today would be a good day to have this. Today would be a good exception. This is birthday, anniversary, travel here, this trip there. Oh, this restaurant, only place in the world you can get this. Every day there's a good reason for an exception. And in the early months of me doing this, I had a long trip to Singapore, then a trip to Hungary, then a trip to India and Malaysia, and then constant travel all around America. So we just make plans. I mean, to this day, I travel with healthy beans. I travel with these frozen soups that Nancy makes. I travel with organic nuts and seeds. And it takes me maybe 15 minutes to put the stuff together. You know, Nancy does the cooking before and put the stuff together, travel with it. It's no big deal. So Nancy herself got involved on these forums with other people that were following a similar way of life. And when she was involved with them, to encourage herself and to learn and exchange recipes and things like that, she kept reading about people that would be great for a year, 2, 3, 5 years, and then decide to splurge for a special event and backslide. And now years later, they couldn't get back on track. When we were in Israel together, Scott and I, we were talking to our tour guide that Scott works with all the time, and she said she used to be a chocoholic, sugarholic, and she got totally free for 6 years, 100% free, never touched it. An Israeli friend of hers convinced her, if you have one small piece of chocolate, it's not going to hurt you. One small piece of chocolate, and she was bound again ever since. Nancy actually had the same thing happen to her. She would set aside, and this is before I was eating like this, she'd set aside one day, maybe once in a month or 2 months, splurge day. Within limits. She'd plan out what she was going to have, and psychologically that was nice to know she could do that. Plan out what she was going to have, she would have it, and then not again for a month or two, whatever. And she was good for a while. And then the one day became 2, and the 2 days became 3, and the next thing she was back to her old ways of eating, except the weight came on quicker. And when she went to go back to a healthy lifestyle, she found it much, much harder to get there again, and the weight coming off more slowly. So we just recommend to everybody, just be all in. Just give yourself to it. And listen, the way I look at it is that when we get into God's heavenly kingdom, there'll be every imaginable, healthy, wonderful thing to eat, and you won't get fat with it. You won't have problems because of eating it. So if I'm missing anything now, I'll get to enjoy it then. But how long do you eat every day? A few minutes. How long do you live every day? 24 hours. I'd much rather be thriving and have energy and joy and vitality and no headaches and backaches and not dealing with all these other things and no high blood pressure. And perhaps if I don't, die for some other reason or die as a martyr or something, maybe extend my life by 20 or 30 years or certainly extend my service to God much more. But on top of it, when you eat healthy stuff, you start to really enjoy it. I love the salads that I eat and, apples and grapes and different things, stuff I never would have touched. I would have paid you money. Literally, if you serve me beans, I'd pay you money not to eat them. Now, I got up this morning, I thought, going to be a long day. Let me get some energy. And so I made a bean salad. I took beans, sunflower seeds, and dressing, and that's what I had this morning. And it was delicious. So I want to encourage you. If you realize you're a slave to certain foods, if you're having health issues that relate to your diet, if you realize you're putting on weight and your energy's getting drained in different things, I encourage you strongly to read the book. And the book is kind of a step one. We give you some guidelines, but it's really good then to follow through and decide, okay, this is how I'm going to live. We recommend different things. We have websites you can just go to, and it's free, recipes and all that kind of stuff. But we tell our stories together, and all I can do is tell you the degree that my life has been revitalized. And last thing, I found out when I had a kidney stone, and it's something that had been growing for a few years, and we discovered it once I was eating healthily. When I got a CAT scan, my doctor looked at it and said, you got a serious issue with an artery. And it turns out there was an issue with an artery that if I had continued high blood pressure over a period of maybe months or certainly years, I could have had an incident and just one day drop dead. Now, eating like this, there's no reason that ever be an incident. In other words, there's nothing to provoke it, and everything would be fine. So I really feel like God had mercy on me. I feel like he just gave me supernatural grace. I don't look at me as being disciplined or anything. I look at it as supernatural grace. And if he helped me, he could help anyone. And the results, the benefits are absolutely off the charts. So I commend these things to you.